Let's paint this colorful sketch of an old building in Scotland. I have used a Fude Fountain pen to do the initial outline. I did not do any pencil work. If it is not comfortable for you to draw directly like this with pen, draw an initial pencil outline first. Fude Fountain pen has a peculiar curve at the nib, which enables us to draw both thick and thin lines using the same pen. You can watch me drawing from both front and back sides of the nib in this video. Add shadows to the right hand side of the door frame, since the light is falling on the building from the left hand side. The corrugated roof is divided into sections, and each section of the roof has vertical lines along its length. We need to show the division between various sections clearly by darkening the boundaries between them. Draw some flowers in the foreground. When drawing the outlines of the stones in the wall, we must be loose and random. Do not draw a uniform pattern of stones. While drawing the overgrown grass in front of the door and the front wall, use thicker strokes. When drawing the grass further away from the house, use thinner strokes. Draw an indication of the tree trunks in a distance past the fence post. Observe carefully how I am drawing the grass here. You want to be as random as possible without deviating much from the general shape of a grass blade. Please like and share this video. If you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to this channel and press the bell icon to get a notification whenever I upload such informative videos. Now back to video. Do not draw too many details for the grass and shrubs which are further away from the viewer. Now let's finish our initial drawing and get to the painting process. Let's begin painting. I am going to paint this in a loose manner. Begin with a loose wash of brown. Do not fill all the white spaces. Leave some brown color on the stone walls of the building too. Add some purple or magenta to the walls. Let this color flow into the original brown color. Paint a part of the sky nearest to the roof. While the paint is still wet, I blew air into it to create this dynamic effect for the sky. Having no defined outline to a painting creates a much more attractive effect in my opinion. Let's begin painting the foliage around the building. I begin by spattering some green paint into the area of the foliage. Don't worry if some paint droplets end up in the sky or the building. You can gently lift the excess paint by dabbing it with a tissue paper. Spatter brown, blue and orange paint in addition to green to lend some volume to the foliage. After the initial watercolor wash was done, I waited for an hour before continuing. I used photo ink to paint the next part of this painting. Photo ink has much saturated color tones than watercolor. You can create a similar effect using thicker watercolor paints or gouache colors or color markers. You may notice that I am using my fingers to move the paint around. That is because the paint in the brush is still wet and I want to create a rough textured effect here. Once the brush has dried a bit, I use it directly to create a texture effect like this. I have used brown and orange colors to paint the tin roof, then added a bit yellow to the mix. For the stone wall, I use dark grey to selectively paint a few stones followed by some brown. Darken the right hand side of the stone chimney to lend volume to the structure. We will similarly darken the right hand wall of the house too using the magenta color. Add dark tones to the foliage behind the building. We will use this foliage to pop out the building more. Use dark green, grey and blue paint to create this dark mass. Remember to leave out some white spaces within this dark mass. Paint the distant foliage on the rightmost side using a lighter shade of green. This will clearly differentiate this foliage and create a sense of depth in the painting. Use lighter shade of green and yellow to paint the foliage on the left hand side. Since the light is falling from the left hand side, this foliage will receive more light and will appear brighter. Make the distant foliage on the left hand side darker to better pop the foreground foliage. For the central foreground foliage partially covering the door and the front wall of the building, I again used the spattering technique since I wanted this foliage to intermingle with the front side of the house. Add some texture to the door using a dry brush. Paint the foreground flowers using white paint. Tighten up the lines that may have been obscured due to the paint and add any finishing touches that you desire. And our painting is done. Happy painting!